We all know that generating seller leads and working with more sellers to get more listings is more crucial now than ever before. But how do you actually effectively achieve this? How can you consistently stay top of mind with past clients, generate new opportunities and leads, and build your business around listings with less work? Fello can help you solve that problem. Fello is a cutting edge platform designed to help real estate agents and teams supercharge their business. With Fello, agents can engage their databases, generate more leads, and have smarter strategies to drive more listings. They are trusted by over 10,000 agents. And Fello, I'm sure that number's outdated. Fello is revolutionizing the real estate industry with its powerful automation and data-driven marketing campaigns. Ryan and Tom, who are here with me today, are the co-founders of Fello and will be sharing with us how the product can help you actually get more listings. So Ryan and Tom, what initially inspired you to create this product?
Yeah, I think, whenever I talk about Fello, I always have to talk about my real estate team first, because I think that was really the driver. And, my real estate team, the young team, we're in Cleveland, number one team in the state of Ohio. We've always been listing focused. And I didn't realize that's rare for our industry, but we've always been 60+%. We sell 500 plus homes a year, and we've been 60+% listing based. And I think one of the things that's interesting is we've always tried to, as the young team, continue to push ourselves and expand ways that we could attract sellers and generate more listings and continue to grow our business. And a lot of that really started when we started really expanding our offerings to sellers. And we started with this guaranteed sale program, and then we moved into a cash offer program. And then the cash offer program got so big that we had to start another company just to facilitate the cash offers. And what was really interesting was that we started to observe that a lot of the people that were requesting cash offers were already in the young team's database, but it was a completely separate company that they were requesting the cash offers from. And so the people that were requesting those offers had no idea that I owned this other company called Flash House. And so, myself, Tom, and our third partner, Steven, we started looking at this and saying, wait, we have people in my database that are going somewhere else, right? And we're losing those opportunities because we're not offering something of value to them. And so we all started to kind of put our heads together and say, how do we actually start making sure that we not only secure the sellers that we already have in our database or the homeowners we have in our database, but also how do we make sure that we empower my team and other agents to generate more? And we just kept building off of that foundation of like, how do we keep helping a team like the young team generate more listings? And it just kept building. And before you know it, it obviously 2.5 years later, now it's scaled into a much bigger company. But originally it was just this concept of how do we help the young team keep their homeowners in their database, and how do we help them generate new sellers?
So you essentially unknowingly developed this product for your team and then realized this wasn't just a problem you were facing, it was a problem other teams were facing. So from a 1,000-foot view answer, how does Fello help agents engage their database and generate more sellers?
Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
So what we do is we've created an ecosystem that has a lot of automations powered by big data. And we had to start first as being able to communicate at scale. So for one, taking the data, a database, and then leveraging a way to communicate at scale. We take the data, and I think one thing that Ryan is super, super big on is like trying to figure out like what segments in your database are most likely to engage. And so we've leveraged over the past couple of years, leveraging, I would say, our real estate expertise, the young team and many other teams that have come on to build mechanisms that are like determining who's going to engage the most. And then building automations around that and building a tech platform that is automating that process and using the data to determine those segments, and then putting that communications in front of sellers. Also, the communication that we put in front of them, having personalized communication, personalized messaging, has also increases the likelihood of engagement.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is really important is we've observed, as you can imagine, very big databases coming into Fello from some of our clients, and the millions and millions of contacts that are now being incubated in Fello is giving us a very large sample size of what's actually happening. And one of the things I find that is interesting, when a client first comes into Fello and they upload their database, we're seeing on average about 80% of their database is buyer leads. There's no address attached to it. And I think this is really interesting foundationally if you want to start building a very strong listing-based business. Well, it helps to start with homeowners in your database, right? And so the first thing that we do is we enrich their database. So we find any potential homeowners that are in there, right? And so we have this really cool enrichment where we append the data. And then like Tom said, referencing the personalization, the more personalized or the more data or information we have, the more granular and personalized we can make the messaging. And that's why we see the conversion. So, it's such a high level.
So how does that enrichment work? Does essentially an agent upload their existing database that have hidden sellers in there, and you're finding out which ones are homeowners? Are you finding other data points like their actual address? What does that look like?
Great question. So from an enrichment standpoint, and this is what makes Fello so powerful, is everything centers around the address. So what we do is we take all of their contacts and we identify which ones, where do they live, right? And do they own that property? And then as soon as we find out where they own that property, so we push all that data into the Fello platform. Then as soon as we know that information, then we can tell you when's the last time they sold their home. How long do they have a mortgage on their property? Are they currently active on the MLS, right? And then the automations or the messaging actually take place based off of that data. So I think one of the things that we really kind of created a significant amount of eye openers within the Fello, within our Fello clients and within the industry was we started actually showing people in real time when people in your database were listing their home. We call it real sellers, right? And that was, I think, the biggest eye opener and this aha moment of our clients and agents in the industry of saying, we have so many listings in our database that we didn't even know were in there that are actively on market, right? And it just started all of a sudden showing there's so much value to our database. When originally, I think we used to look at our database as if people didn't respond back to us, then it was a bad lead. But now we're showing them the people that we thought were bad leads are actually listing their homes. What do we need to do to get in front of them to provide value to them so they do want to engage with us?
Yeah, I think it's really what we do, and we've been really focused on trying to I'd say solve just our own problems, and then knowing that if it solves a problem for us, then it can solve a problem for many, and just staying connected to our clients. But from an enrichment standpoint, taking an address and then enriching that address with a lot of different data like public record, MLS, mortgage, all of these things are really powerful that agents don't have access in their CRMs today. And those are great drivers to help you, not just messaging, not just communication, but even having a conversation and knowing that information on whether when you do have a phone call. So all of those things, I think all of that enrichment is so powerful. And I don't think you realize how important it is until you actually have it. It was kind of funny because over the years, working closely with agents, you watch how they do it. And they're like, oh, this lead came in and they're opening up their MLS platform. They're logging in and they're researching some stuff. And I was like, wow, we can probably automate all of that research that you're doing and just put it into one place. Oh, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm sending this email and I'm going to do this and I'm going to enroll this list. And we're like, oh, we can automate that for you too. And so really just discovering how people are working and then finding solutions to automate all of that work for them and, get people from, into the funnel and then help move them down the funnel, to transacting. And then the discovery of, like Ryan said, real sellers was okay, we've done all this work to help automate this. How many of them are actually doing something? And how are we helping you convert these? And if you're not converting them, how can we help you convert them a little bit more?
So yeah, you both mentioned the tool Real Sellers where you're finding people who have actually listed. Besides an agent going and looking at the list and go, oh man, I missed all these opportunities. What should an agent take away, or are there any action steps they should take from seeing we actually did have real listings in our database?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because once again, I still have a team, right? And so that hurts just as much as every other agent that gets those real sellers. And what I do is I have what I call a real seller audit, which we're actually starting to build into the platform. And what I do is basically I have a VA that does it, but they take every single real seller and we look at a couple key metrics. Can we confirm that they own that property? Yes. Can we confirm that the email address was valid? Yes. When was the original creation of the lead? What was the original source of the lead? All right. So, and we now have pushed a lot of this data into Fello. So now I can just automate that entire process. Then I say, how many times did they engage in Fello? How many times did they submit a form, meaning they requested their value, they requested a cash offer, CMA, et cetera? How many times did they open emails? How many times did they click on their dashboard? But then I move it over to the young team's responsibility. How many times did we call them? How many times did we text them? How many times did we actually talk to them on the phone? And did we set a listing appointment or not? And what I found was, I started looking at this data, and it's very eye-opening to my team. Our team's energy, the young team, our energy and effort did not match the consumer's engagement within Fello. So we started to see, and there was this major delta between it was driving me crazy. I'm sitting there saying, guys, this person clicked on their home value dashboard 37 times and we called them twice, right? Like, look at the discrepancy there. Like, this is very eye-opening. We're starting to see consistency. The more someone is actively engaging on Fello, the more likely they are to list their home. So we need to see a lift in our actual activities, right, compared to their engagement. And I think that has been one of the biggest eye-openers for our team, and we've seen conversion go up significantly since we started looking at it.
So you're essentially taking the data that you saw of engagement that these leads took that are now listed and implemented a better strategy for your team. Does that then go into Fello in some way? Does Fello have some sort of way to rank leads based on activity and engagement?
Yeah, Tom, go ahead about lead engagement.
Yeah, so we do rank. We have an engagement score. It's not public facing yet. We have an overall engagement score that's rolling up, but we are launching shortly contact engagement score, and essentially what that is it's right now we've learned exactly what behaviors drive the most outcomes. Now we're building tech around that again to provide. We have two things. We already have propensity score in our platform. Propensity is really looking at a property level data for the highest at the highest level, looking at property data and saying, hey, this property is more likely to go to market versus this property. It's not predictive. It's more of filtering so that you can spend marketing dollars towards, a segment of properties that may be more likely to sell. And that's how propensities work across the whole industry. What we're working on is like when someone is engaging in the platform, that is a lot larger indicator on if they're going to, transact with you. And so we will be, it will be coming in our platform shortly. And it'll be basically all of those metrics of like someone engaging, email opens, clicks, and leads, and just views, among a whole host of other metrics that drive behind that will provide a score for users. So yeah.
And one of the things that just I've found is really interesting, Tom mentioned that like I love segments, in Fello's platform. What I have found is, and I really haven't seen this throughout the rest of the industry, and I think this is a big game changer on how I have approached seller lead generation, and our team has converted sellers at a really high level. What we like to do is we like to stack the public record MLS and mortgage data on top of the engagement, right? So what I mean by that is if you have a big enough database and you don't have enough time in the day to call your entire database, which most of us have a big enough database, what we want to do is let's start first with the people that have been in their home the longest. And then let's add on top of that people that don't have a mortgage on their property, because one of the biggest objections we hear right now is I don't want to sell my house. I have a 3% mortgage. Then let's take any other type of property data that we think would be, maybe it's appreciation. Maybe it's, certain data points that we feel would be really high intent of why someone would sell their home. Meaning if you had to call someone that's been in their home for a year or 25 years, I'd rather call someone who's been in their home 25 years. If you had to call someone who has a 3% mortgage or no mortgage at all, I'd rather call someone that has no mortgage at all. So we take all these data points and we put them into a segment, but then you include or layer on top the behavior. So here is this segment of really high intent sellers based off of data. But let's layer in, of these people, who's already been opening emails, who's already been clicking on the dashboard, who's already been raising their hand and submitting forms. Those are the highest intent sellers that are in your database. And so because we can kind of combine both of those data points, all the property data with the actual engagement, it all of a sudden starts to get you start to become very clear. It becomes very clear in your database of who is actually the most likely to sell.
So you're collecting all this data. You've got the data enrichment, whether or not they have a mortgage, how long they've been there, the estimated value of the house, propensity scores, engagement scores. How does this all tie into an agent's CRM?
Yep.
Or does it at all?
Yeah, Tom, talk about a couple of the integrations.
Yeah, so we initially launched with RealSync and Zapier integrations, which we use, and we have 1,000 plus clients that are using those, and it worked extremely well. So like as those hand raisers happen and that engagement happens, that pushes all to a whole host of connected other CRMs. We recently launched FUB, Follow Up Boss, which Elena, I know you're super keen on. And so the nice thing about that native integration is we push a lot more data. And the data that we push into FUB allows a lot more segmentation on the FUB side. So our vision and our goal is for us to really kind of be this platform that drives all of these activities, that drives this consumer engagement, that gets these hand raisers. But as an agent and a team, you can still work in the CRM that you have. So us being more of this bolt-on tool that drives the right outcomes. And then you live and breathe in the CRM that your team is most likely to work in. We are launching a Sierra integration as well, which will be native. That's actually in beta testing right now. So we're super excited about that. And then we have a whole host of other, I would say, CRMs in the real estate space plan directly beyond that.
A follow-up question to that. So just based on my own personal experience working with Fello and Follow Up Boss, I see a number of data records that go over to Follow Up Boss. Do you push over the propensity score or have plans to? And same with once you roll out the engagement score in some way to Follow Up Boss, like a custom field that's searchable?
Yeah, so today we don't push propensity. Consumer engagement score, we will push that over, but probably not propensity, at least in the short term. I'm not saying we won't do that, but it's a little, because of the proprietary nature of it, we keep that in our platform and that's leveraged. But consumer engagement score is something that we are considering pushing over.
That would be a huge help for people who use Follow Up Boss, because if they're clients of ours, we're segmenting their database already for smart lists, but even then the lists get really long again. And so if we can, like you were saying, Ryan, you make these micro segments of your database based on those various activities and say, okay, these are my hots, but I have 50 here.
Right.
So which ones have the highest engagement score for me to work with first, to call first, so that you have, different weights that you put on different leads based on their engagement.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, and we can connect, is the ability to leverage those segments. And what's so nice is, some of the things that we're building right now is we can have this migration of like anyone that falls into a segment automatically flows into Follow Up Boss with a tag, and then that tag can go into some of the smart lists that you're building out, which is super cool. What I always recommend to people is, like, depending on the size of your database, some people have 1,000 people, which is okay. They can still use Fello, but they probably have to be a little looser on the criteria versus someone with 100,000 contacts. They can be a little tighter. And so I always recommend, like, what is a good amount of opportunities for your team that you actually feel that your team can, actively prospect, like efficiently and actively prospect. Like if you said 20,000 and you have 4 agents on your team, I don't think that's efficient. I think that's too wide and narrow of a criteria, and they're not going to get through all those people, or they're going to call them once and that person's not going to pick up, and then they're never going to call them back again, or they won't call them back for 90 days. So it's like, what is the sweet spot of contacts that you feel like you can actively manage in a week or in a month, right? And identify that. Then we start to tighten the criteria based on how many leads or contacts we want to push over. So it's like I said, if let's just say you say we would really like to start working 1,000 of our highest intent leads. So let's start with people that have been in their home for over 20 years. And if you still have 4,000 leads, okay, let's go to 25 years. All right. And then we just keep taking that criteria further and further away, that it's just getting so high intent that like we're pushing them over into that segment.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's taking smart listen segments to another level for sure.
Yeah. And what I'm so excited about with what you do, and why I think our mutual clients benefit, is we don't put in the sales process, right? Like our job is basically the marketing, the hand raise, or getting them to raise their hand, providing really relevant information to the consumer on behalf of the agent that keeps them engaged and excited. What I love about what you do is we push that over to you, and that's when you put in the practices that you apply, where it's like, here's who you need to follow up with. Like, don't follow up, don't stop following up with them until you have a conversation with them. And when you do both of them simultaneously, it really optimizes conversion.
Yeah. And just, Ryan, you just made me think of something else too. I think that might solve, Elena, like your question. We are building full workflows. Think of like lead routing, basically criteria-based operational workflows. And so one of the things that you'll be able to do in there is automatically apply a tag based on some variables. So what you would be able to do is, like, let's say that propensity score is between 80 and 90. You could automatically apply a tag called medium high propensity, and that tag would sync over at a contact for anyone who meets that criteria. And you could automatically remove that tag with our workflows as well. So you can automatically apply tags and remove tags based on conditions. So that would be a way, whether we push the direct score or not, or consumer engagement score, that is a way for you to automatically create segments in FUB or any other CRM for that matter. So.
Yeah, I love that. So I know you have a lot of powerhouse users, a lot of big names. Are there any specific success stories you can think of, or statistics to share of how Fello has helped an agent or a team increase their sales and conversion rates?
Yeah, I mean, because I work so closely with so many of our teams, especially the bigger teams. I'll just use an example of I got a message just the other day. And this team has a bigger database, about 200,000 contacts. They're in South Carolina. We just launched the cash offer automation, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that, different types of automations. But this team set 15 listing appointments in the last 7 days, just from people raising their hands requesting cash offers. And what they're so blown away by is, and what Fello is really our entire thesis and the foundational, kind of principles of what we do, is these were all leads that were already in their database, right? These are 15 listing appointments that they don't have to pay referral fees on, 40% success fees. And these aren't new leads that they have to go buy. These are people that we strategically incubated and started working them down the funnel, and then got them to raise their hand at a place where they were much more higher intent. And the team is absolutely floored. Another example is just the enrichment component. We have a client that has about 100,000 contacts, and we have a lot of clients that have a lot of success with 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, more just when you asked about more of some of the larger clients. 100,000 contacts. When they first came to us, they had only 8,000 addresses in their database, right? That's a significant buyer database, but it's really hard to generate listings consistently and predictably when that's what your database looks like. We've enriched their database. I think we've now found about 65,000 addresses. They're generating about 300 seller leads a month out of that database. And it's like, it's completely changed the way they approach their business, you know? And so just a couple of success stories. I mean, we have, the list goes on and on, but it's like just some cool things that I'm seeing of teams that like are reaching out to me and are so excited about Fello and what we do and how much it's actually impacting their business. It's really cool.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned the cash offer automation. Can you explain what that is and what other automations you've built in the Fello platform?
Yeah. Tom, you want to take that or you want me to?
You're pretty good at explaining it. I think Ryan's a power user. He loves talking about it. I'll get too technical. I'll let Ryan do it in agent speak.
All right. I love it because
yeah.
the reason why I love it, and to Tom's point, is because I'm a user and my team, I'm so proud of the young team. And even though I've been out of production for 4 years and I've been building Fello but what's so cool about Fello is that we get to sit on young team meetings and say, what are the pain points? We have we're so close to the young team. So it's like, we get to constantly build product and software to help them solve their problems and help.
And we love it too, like, which is crazy. Like, we are obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So,
obsessed.
like,
And
obsessed.
I'm obsessed. And I posted something on Facebook the other day. I don't know if I said, I finally found like happiness, because all I do is I work with Fello to solve problems for the young team. And so I get to solve, basically 2 problems simultaneously. But the cash offer automation, what we found was there was a very low conversion of homeowners that were raising their hands requesting their home's value. When we first launched Fello, the core competency was, how do we discover and incubate homeowners in a database? Well, we found that the home value message is the most universal message to every homeowner. If you own a house and you get an email that says, are you curious what your home's worth? There's value in that, right? And so when we first launched this, it exploded. And Fello all of a sudden was this big thing, like all these agents around the country, like, I didn't even realize I had all these homeowners in my database. This is so cool. But then what we started to see was agents started to really like almost get concerned. These home value leads aren't converting as fast as I want them to convert. And so then we came up with Real Sellers and we said, well, look, these home value leads are actually converting. You're just not converting them, right? But what we realized was, even though discovering or exposing that these home value leads were converting, we still realized that we had to do more to help the agents convert them at a higher level. So we really went deep in saying, if we knew that we could if we could take a homeowner in your database and get them to engage, but naturally work them down the funnel, how could we get them to be as high intent as possible with the agent not doing anything, right? And so about a month ago or so, we launched automations, and automations are different series of emails and direct mail and ways to essentially navigate the consumer through an automated journey to get them down the funnel, so it's not just sitting top of funnel like a home value lead, right? And so the first one we launched was cash offer. We actually launched a direct mail drop off, but the most, I would say, relevant one to the entire Fello community was this cash offer one. And what the cash offer automation is we take data and we basically say, and the agent is in complete control if they want to turn it on or off in the parameters or criteria that they send it to. But we basically say, show me everyone in my database that is below a certain price point, that lives in this area, that's been in their home for a certain amount of time, that's not actively on the market. And then also who is engaged in Fello, who's opening up emails, looking at their home value, raising their hand. And let's start to weave in some higher intent messaging, like getting a cash offer on your home. So what's basically happening is the people that have been opening their home value emails are now going to all of a sudden get a cash offer email every once in a while, right? And then it goes back to a home value email and then a cash offer email, depending on their engagement. And what we found was, because we're sending it to the people that are most engaged, right, we're seeing such a high concentration of cash offer requests coming, because we're sending them very strategically to the people that should be getting that message. And so when I tell you that success story, I think this team was really surprised when they started getting all of these cash offer leads in a matter of a couple of days, and they were getting on the phone with them, and these homeowners were really excited to talk to them about selling their home. And it was almost like serendipitous that they got this cash offer email from the agent right as soon as they were thinking about selling. And so how we can kind of expand upon that. Like we have an expired automation that's about to launch next week, where anyone in your database who lists with someone else that ends up expiring moves into expired messaging, right? Ways that we can help them work down the funnel and help the agents convert more. And so that's kind of the foundation of it. And you're just going to see every type of different use case that we think that we can help an agent drive a seller down the funnel without them doing anything. We're going to continue to build an automation around it. That might have made no sense whatsoever.
No, it did.
Everything I just said.
Perfect. So two follow-up questions to what you just shared. Whenever an agent does get a cash offer request, what do you recommend or train your clients to do at that point?
Yeah, that's something I'm super passionate about. First off, we are building native integrations of iBuyers into our platform. The first one's going to launch, what, Tom, next week, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, it'll be piloted in a couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
Yep.
So the agents are going to have the ability to turn on or off different iBuyers, different cash buyer aggregators, stuff like that. So we understand that if an agent isn't comfortable fielding a cash offer lead, or they don't have the resources or means to do it, it might be detrimental, or they might be apprehensive about doing so. So our first priority is building in the ability for them to actually aggregate cash offers through the platform by national iBuyer powerhouses, right? That will make sure.
I think also just add to it, we're approaching it more where an agent has similarities to like a portal would have. So it's a very integrated experience as opposed to some aggregators. They're getting them to engage and then feeding some numbers back later. We're building direct connections with iBuyers, and so agents are getting portal level style offerings for their clients.
Yeah, and I think so. That's the ideal scenario where we remove all friction in the consumer experience and allow their clients to receive cash offers directly from portals, but the agents to participate in them, and the agents have full visibility and there's full transparency around it. That's number one priority. But let's just say the agent is in a market that those iBuyers aren't in, or they're just not comfortable working with an iBuyer. I've kind of walked agents through this step-by-step process to stand up their own iBuyer, or to stand up their own cash offer program, where they actually work with local investors in their market, and they basically have those local investors back their cash offer offering. And there's we can set up a different call for me to go like super granular on it, but it is really easy. The young team, we started doing the guaranteed sale in 2015. The first 3 or 4 years, we didn't buy a single house. We got a lot of people that raised their hands and said they were interested in that program, but we didn't buy a single one. Very strategically on how we structured it, we didn't really want to buy them. And it wasn't a bait and switch. Our clients still appreciated the option, right? But just the majority of times they found that the retail option was the best fit for them. But now what I found is a lot of times with cash offer programs, like you don't have to be the one buying it. You just have to know who to look for, who to have a conversation with that would be able to or fulfill that message.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned we can do another one, because I was about to go down a rabbit hole. I wrote like 5 questions. So it's okay, we'll table that and save it for another time.
I was just on a Tom Ferry webinar, and we literally did kind of like a step-by-step walkthrough. And it's actually a very powerful business move to start to build your own marketplace of buyers, because what ends up happening is you end up actually creating a network of people that you do more business with, not only through the cash offer message, but just in the fact that you've built a network of people that are very active in real estate. And so it's one of those things, like we'll go deeper in that one.
Can you, and then the other automation you mentioned, expired. Can you share a sneak peek of what that messaging will look like and how it'll gauge the lead?
Yeah, I mean, so, if you have an expired in your database, and is it cool if I just share my screen really quick?
Yes, please do.
So like, here's what's really, what I love about Fello, just some of the things that me personally, the way I use it and our team uses it, and we use it at a really high level. So I have full visibility into, and so, we have these real sellers that are listing their homes in our database. The young team's had 1,200 in the past 6 months, right? So not all 1,200 of those people are going to list their home. So I get notified every day when there's someone who lists their home and actually was listed with someone else and was unsuccessful selling. So what I can do is I can come here and say, show me all of the people in my database that have expired, but show me the ones that have most recently expired. So now I'm going down the list and you can see there are a lot of people in here and I can see who they were listed with and how much they were listed at. And then what I want to do is I've created what I consider is like my Fello hot expired. So these are anyone that has expired, but have also already opened up emails from us. And so what I'm looking at now is show me anyone in my database that expired, but has also been actively engaged. So take, for example, this person. They just came off the market on July 15th. But 308 days ago, this guy requested their home value from me, right? So when I reach out to this person, this is no longer a cold expired call. It's not an outbound call. This is someone who is already in our database, someone that we've already been incubating. You know, this person right here, they just expired. They opened up 29 emails. This person has clicked on their database on their consumer dashboard 8 times. They just expired on July 5th. They requested their home value 150 days ago. So my point of showing that is, there are so many ripe opportunities in our database that we don't even know about. But most people, we're not searching every day to match back expireds on the market to see if they were already in our database. Fello brings this all to you. So what Fello is going to do is, from an automation perspective, the type of messaging that we're going to drive them through is something that acknowledges that they were on the market previously, right? Like, I'm so sorry your home didn't sell. Here's some of the top reasons why homes that should have sold the first time didn't. Right. And then with click here to get our top reasons, moving people into what we call like a net proceeds, calculator, saying, sorry you didn't sell. See what you would home if you listed today or if you sold your home today. So we have all this different strategic educational content. Also, we obviously have the home value. We have the cash offer that people can turn on. So it's this like really long journey. And Tom, what the expire is 2-3 years of content.
Yeah, it's about a year. I think on the expired, it's about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we have a year.
Yeah.
So we have a year of content that's incubating these people that were already in your database that are it's really seller rich.
I mean, being that it's automations, you can re-enroll, and it could go for 8 years if you want. Sure. So you can never stop.
But my point is that we have all these people in our database that it's like everyone else is reaching out to them from a cold outbound perspective, and we're nurturing them and incubating them with warm, rich content that they see value in as a way to differentiate ourselves to convert more of them into opportunities.
I love that. I'm learning so much from this call, and my gears are turning and all the things you can do in Follow Boss with all of this. So
it's so cool. I'm telling you, like, I know. And once again, I'm like such a fanboy of Fello, even though I'm the CEO, which is weird, but like, I just, once again, I love what I love about this so much. And where I found my happiness is like, if you think of like a Venn diagram and like the intersection of the middle part, it's like, I really do feel like I get to sit here and I see, because I audit real sellers, I see a lot of our real sellers coming to market, but then I see them expired and I'm like, this is such an opportunity for us. Like, imagine if I never used to even know, I never even used to know I was losing opportunities, let alone the opportunities I lost didn't end up selling. And now we're building strategies on how we can automate this entire process for agents to help them convert them.
Yeah. So for anyone watching who's a KTS client, I will 100% be connecting with Tom and Ryan with some ideas I've got to figure out how to get specific Fello automations and segments and tags and lists set up and Follow Boss. So I know that's going to be a question asked following this. So 100% I'll be following up with y'all on that. But for those who want to learn more about Fello, I'll put a link in the description if you want to learn more. And I think on your website, there's a way to book a demo. Is that correct? If you want to do that?
Yes, but make sure that if you book a demo, reference Elena, and I want to make sure we take special care of you guys. So we have some great promos for, some of our preferred partners and stuff like that. So whether you come in through her link or just through highfellow.com, make sure you reference her. I want to make sure that we get you some special pricing.
Appreciate that. One final question I forgot to ask. Do you have plans in the future to create a version of Fello for people in Canada? I know you can't do a lot of what you do with like data enrichment in Canada, but Do you have plans in some way to replicate this in Canada?
Tom, why don't you take that one?
We have plans to do a lot of things, like in a lot of places. So we're evaluating solutions right now, to see if, what's possible. One of the things that if we were to go to Canada or any other market, we want to make sure that we can deliver on our promise. And so, that's not always available with the way that we've built, like with the data that we need to deliver on that. So I think where we do go, whether it would be Canada or something else, if we can deliver on our promise, then we're going to try to go there.
And there is, and Tom, that was like extremely diplomatic and like well said. We should actually like write that down, and that should just be like the canned response. There is nothing more than I would love to go to Canada. It's just one of those things. We have the best of the best waiting for us there, right? We're trying to figure it out. It's just so challenging. It's a different country with different data sets, and I am so excited for the day we do. Just because I get from all my friends in Canada like heckled every time I post anything about Fello.
I feel like it's like at least like 20 people like. Every time Ryan posts something, 20 people from Canada, which is awesome. We're like,
and they're the best of the best. They're the biggest teams.
And they just post the emoji flag, the Canada emoji flag. That's it.
So, no, like to Tom's point though, I mean, we obviously have a lot of pride in what we build. And we want to make sure that it's the quality that we stand behind and we represent. And I think that's why we've seen the growth we have, is because we are always listening. And, you mentioned some of the Follow-Up Boss things that you can envision. We also want to hear from you. And if you say like, hey, I have a strategy or a way that I can help our agents win more, we want to hear that so we can build to that. And that's like, I know it might sound maybe canned or cliche, but it's like, that's really how we've scaled this company over the past couple of years, is like, we have really loyal users. They really love the product, and we do a great job listening to their pain points. And we've iterated this. Fello 2 years ago, when we first launched this in October of 22, was really not supposed to be what it is, but we just listened and we iterated. And, that's something that's really important to us, is constantly listening to pain points and solving those problems.
Well, that's how you build up a successful business, by listening to pain points and people's ideas.
100%.
For sure. Well, I appreciate both of your time today. And like I mentioned, if you want to learn more about Fello, check out the link in the description. I was already a fan, but now I'm even more of a fan of Fello. So thank you for shedding some more light on Fello, and appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.